Hey there, in this video we're going to have a play with some choose all that apply data. Okay, so we're going to have a little play and I'll switch over to my Excel now. Okay, so what we've got in this data set is an example of some kata scale data here under quality, where we can have entries of sweet, sour, tasteless, soft and firm. Now just as a quick reminder, when you have kata scale data, you can have more than one entry per cell, which means that you can't actually enter them like this as one single variable, and we'll come on to exactly how you enter them. But for now, all I want to do is in this particular bit, I just want to go through what descriptive analyses, descriptive statistics you can use with this type of data. Okay, so this isn't how you enter them, but we're just going to go through the descriptive statistics. So the descriptive statistics that you can do, firstly, is you can count how many you've got, and you use that by using count A. So you go equals count A and you select that, and what it does is it counts up all the text entries that you've got. Remember, you've got no empty cells here, and you have no numerical values either. You've just got text entries, and the header itself will be counted, so you have to take one away from your final total, so -1, and we have 74 entries here. Let's check that, or we'll scroll down, and here we are, 74 entries. Okay, all the way back up to the top. Okay, and we are allowed to work out the mode of these data too. So we can say equals mode of these, the most numerous category, and we don't get an answer. As we've discussed before, when you're working with things like mode, median and mean, they need to be in numerical values to be able to do that. You can't do it as text, at least not very easily. So we can't calculate the mode of these data while they're in a text format. We need them to be in a numerical format. In the next sheet, we're going to go over the numerical kata scale data, what we can do. But what we can do is we can use COUNTIF to count up all the entries in a particular from a category. So we can go equals COUNTIF, and here is our range, and we want to find out how many of them are sweet, and there are 14 sweet entries in there, and from here we can just pull this down and it tells us how many we've got. So we have 14 sweet, 18 sour, 10 tasteless, 14 soft and 18 firm, and of course from this you can work out what your mode is. So it's the most numerous, so both sour and firm have got 18, which is the highest number within the data set. So sour and firm are the most numerous. They are the modes, and it's obviously a bimodal distribution. So anyway, so they're what you can do. What you can't do with these, because remember these are nominal data, what you can't do is work out the minimum value, the lowest value in the range. But we can put it in and we can see what we get anyway, and we get 0. It tells us 0 because it's looking for numbers, and it hasn't found any, so it just says 0. And we can do the same thing with maximum. We can select those and it gives us the same maximum. Of course, it's not correct, but these are the things that you have to have some common sense to work with data in Excel. You have to not just go with it. You have to think about what you're doing as you're going through it. So you know that you're not allowed to work out a minimum or a maximum value of these type of data in Excel, and just because Excel will allow you to do it, it doesn't mean that you should or that it's valid. And it gives you nonsensical values here, a 0 for both, but these are text data anyway, so you can't do it. Okay, but equals median, and median is something that you should not do with kata scale data, because these are nominal data and it won't work it out in this case because it's text. And average, so we work out the average of these values, and also it gives us a divide by 0 result. So in terms of the kata scale data, which are nominal, all the nominal rules apply. So what you can work out is, you can work out how many entries you've got, how many entries you've got in each particular category, and you can work out the mode. And that's it. You can't do anything else with it. You're not allowed to work out the minimum or the maximum, because the categories do not have order. There is no minimum, there is no maximum. Because you cannot order the data, there is no median either. That's meaningless. And because they are not numeric, you cannot work out the mean. And besides that, you can't work out the mean anyway, because there is no sense. There's no order in the categories, so that it's nonsense to be able to work out a mean. Mean is only for numerical values, not for categories. Okay, so these are all the things that you can and cannot do with kata scale data. Okay, let's switch over to the next sheet, which is numbered. Okay, and we're going to do exactly the same, because these are the same data. I've taken all the categories and I've numbered them instead of having them named. And let's see what we can find out now. So we can go again with count. We go equal count to find out how many we've got. This time, remember, it's not count A, which counts the text, it's count, which counts all the numbers. We don't need to take account of the header, the name of the variable. And we get 74, precisely the same as before. Okay, so that's fine. And we can work out the mode. And the mode of these is 2, category 2. Here it is. But why? Well, let's find out. Using COUNTIF, we're going to count how many times the category of 1 has occurred. So equals COUNTIF. We're going to count across this range, and the criterion is it should be equal to 1. So that's a 14, and we pull this down, and it gives us a count of all of the different categories, how many we've got in each category. So we have 14 in category 1, 18 in 2, 10 in 3, 14 in 4, and 18 in 5. Well, the mode told us that we have that category 2 is the most numerous with 18, and it is, but it's also matched by category 5, which has also got 18, but it didn't tell us that. So we missed out on a piece of data, an interesting and useful piece of information. By calculating the mode without counting how many we've got in each category, we missed out on an important piece of information. So it's important, it's useful to calculate the mode, but it's also really important to calculate how many we've got in each particular category. Not just because sometimes the mode, there are 2 modes or more than 2 modes, but just so that you understand how your data are distributed. So you know how many you've got in each category, and do they work out? Do they total up to the number that you expect? Well, for that you use the total command, equals total, and add, or sum equals sum, and you add them up. Yeah, you can do that very easily, but make these checks. You need to make these checks so that you understand your data. Something else that you can do in Excel will allow you to do it, but you should not do it, is calculate the minimum. We can calculate the minimum here, and it will give us that category 1 is our lowest category. Well, it's not, because our categories are not ordered. In this sense, it's actually useful to do it, because if you have coded all your categories as 1 to 5, You might have some other numbers in there that you didn't expect. Somebody else has put some numbers in there, some code to mean, oh, I don't have data. They might have put in a number 9 or 99 or -1 or whatever. And if you've got a data set of tens of thousands of rows, you're not going to scan it by eye. So it's useful to find out how many, what is your lowest and highest numbers. So equals max. So for the maximum number in here. Same again. It's because the categories are not ordered. There is no minimum and there is no maximum. But in terms of trying to find out if your data have got something in there that they shouldn't have, if there's any numbers that shouldn't be there, it's really useful to calculate a minimum and maximum. Not in terms of using it for descriptive statistics, but in terms of using it as a cleaning tool, a data cleaning tool. So that's really useful to be able to do anyway. Something else that you should not do is median. So we can calculate, I can't spell, equals median. I open the bracket and there, median. Right, we can calculate the median, but it's meaningless. It's meaningless because there is no order to the categories. So if you cannot order the categories, you cannot order the data, and if you can't order the data, then you cannot work out a median. It's meaningless. Excel will allow you to do it, but it's wrong. You should not do it. And similarly, the average, you should not work out the average of nominal or kata scale data because it is meaningless. It will work it out for you, 3.05. The average of these is 3.05. Yeah, but the average of what? Sweet, soft, firm. What is the average of all of that lot? They're completely different pieces of data. You cannot compare them in any way. You cannot even say that something is greater than something else or more important than anything else. It's just they're nominal data. Each category is completely separate. Okay, so remember the things that you can do with kata scale data, which is nominal data, is you can work out a count of how many you've got. You can work out the mode. You can work out how many you've got in each category. And that's all you can do. You cannot do anything else. The things that you cannot do is minimum and maximum, although they are useful in a data cleaning sense. So you are authorized to use that minimum and maximum, but only for data cleaning, not for descriptive statistics. Also, you're not allowed to use the median or the average. Okay, so now that we've got an understanding of what we can and cannot do with kata scale data, both named and numbered, we're going to move on now to the next sheet, which is creating dummy variables out of these. See, the thing is that when you have got data in from kata scales, which you might have gathered maybe on sheets of paper, you've got all these sheets of paper, you've got to be able to enter them into Excel in some way or another. And the way to do it is every individual possibility is a column all on its own. So you will have a column for sweet, a column for sour, one for tasteless, one for soft, and one for firm. Because you cannot enter them in one column. If you try to enter them in one column, then you will have something like soft and sweet within the same cell. Now that's two different pieces of data, two different pieces of information within the same cell. And you can't have that. You've got to have them into separate cells. And the only way you have them in separate cells is you have separate columns. And actually, you're going to deal with these data as separate variables anyway, and you can compare these variables to each other. So for example, you can see if there is a correlation or an association between soft and sweet. If it's soft, is it sweet? If it's sweet, is it soft? What about firm and sour? Is it both firm and sour together? Is there an association between those? Well, you're allowed to test for those. You can test for those, and then you see the relationships in your data. All this relationship stuff, this comes in a later chapter, and we'll come to that. But for now, we just want to learn how to handle these data, and here, how to create dummy variables out of them. And I think you already know how to do this because we did this in a previous lesson. There are two ways of doing it. One way is we used the VLOOKUP, and I'm not going to go through that this time, but this time I am going to go through the other one, which is an if then else. So here I've set up the first one. So I'll go through this, I'll go through and explain it, and then we'll start typing it in and go through the next lot. Okay, so we have a variable called sweet, and it's in text format, and throughout this it's all called either sweet or other meaning all of the other possibilities that you could have rated it as. And so we want to translate these data exactly as they are from text into numbers. Okay, so what we do is we set up a variable with precisely the same column heading, same name, sweet, and we say if b2, which is this one, is equal to the name of our variable sweet, then give us a 1 in this cell, otherwise give us a 0. So if we find a sweet here, we're looking for sweet. If we find sweet here, give us a 1, otherwise give us a 0. It gives us a 0 because the entry is other. So if I pull this down now, that's other, and the next two should also be other, which is 0, and the next one should give us a sweet, and it does. And I'll pull this all the way down to the bottom. Here it is, and we can then check these. So what I ought to do, and I'm going to do this now, is I am going to freeze panes so that I can scroll up and down and the column names stay the same. Okay. So the first four are zeros, which correspond to not sweet, anything other than sweet, which is other there, and the fifth one, which is sweet, gives us a 1, the other gives us a 0, the sweet gives us a 1, and so on and so forth. So it's all correct. Right, so what we've done here is we've used one $sign here. Of course, as we're moving around, we're allowed to move across the columns and move down the rows in terms of our B2, the thing that we're looking up. Okay, and as we get the thing that we're looking up, which is H1, the 1 is not allowed to change, but the H is, so we can move across the columns, which means that we put in a $sign here just next to our 1, which means that once we've done that, we can just pull this all the way across to the other side, and we know that it's going to move across with us. So the B2 becomes a C2. It's moved across to the next column. Our B2 for this one moves to D2, E2, and F2, which is exactly what we want. And here our H1 becomes I1, J1, K1, L1. So it all moves across. And now, once we've done this, we can select all of this and just double click, and it will populate all the way down to the bottom. Okay. So let's check what have we got here. Across here we have a soft but nothing else. What we've got here, we've got a soft and everything else is other. In this one we have a sour and nothing else, and that's what we have. We have a sour. In this one we have a firm and nothing else, and that's what we've got. We don't have any actually down here where we've got more than one entry, such as a sweet and soft. That's only because that's the way that I've arranged the data, and I could have done, I didn't, it doesn't matter, because each of these individual variables is completely separate from all the others now. It's not one variable, it's 5 variables, and all we've done is we've translated from our text data into numerical data, and we now have our dummy variables so that we can start to work with these in either Excel or other statistics programs. Okay, so we've now had a little play with all of our data, And in the next video, I'm going to be talking about my experiences with scale data. And hopefully you won't make the same mistakes that I made before.